Hey everyone, what's going on? Welcome into HQ Spotlight. I'm Jacqueline D'Agostino alongside Amanda Guerra. That feeling is in the air, like football is so close. Training camps are happening. We have some reports coming your way from Jags training camp.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you so much. Congratulations to you as well.
Oh, I realize we're kind of like on the colors too, a little bit, like a little
in
off.
Family, like Eagles green adjacent, Jags teal adjacent. Sure. The Eagles, though, the expectations are a whole lot higher than they are for the Jags, if I might say so.
We can see a turnaround for the Jags,
Hopefully.
but yes, the expectations are higher for the Eagles. And look, no one's really crazy enough to say, I don't think the Eagles are even going to make it back to the postseason. However, some of our experts, and we're about to talk to them, have some teams that did make the postseason last year that they don't think are going to make it back to the playoffs. So take a look at the NFL bracket. That's how things played out last season. You ended up with the Chiefs, Bills, Eagles, Commanders making it to the conference title games with the Birds winning it all. Let's welcome in John Breech, Tyler Sullivan. So each of you kind of came up with some teams that you said, look, congrats, you made it to the postseason last year, not this year. Both of you say one of those teams is the Chargers. Second year under Jim Harbaugh, had a huge turnaround, took them from 5-12 to 11-6. They finished second in their division there. John, I'll start with you. Why are the Chargers not going to make it to the playoffs?
Well, Amanda, let me first start off by saying I don't think there's going to be some epic collapse here. I don't think the Chargers are going to be 4-13. And of course, the Chargers are known for epic collapses. So certainly, I guess that could be a possibility, but Jim Harbaugh has built a strong foundation in Los Angeles. I do think this team will win 9 or 10 games, but I do not think that will be good enough to get them into the postseason. I think when you look around the rest of the AFC, you have teams like the Cincinnati Bengals, the New England Patriots could surprise some people. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are even being a little bit slept on. And then you look at the Chargers schedule like we're doing right now. Those first 3 games out of the gate, they have 3 straight divisional games. They have not opened with 3 straight divisional games in the first 3 weeks since 1988. And so they could get off to a rough start this season. The Chiefs in Brazil is not easy. Then week 2, they have the Raiders home opener in Las Vegas. And then you have to go play Denver. You could be 0-3 and out of the playoff running before September's even over. So I do think that Jim Harbaugh can lead this team to a winning record for the second straight season, but I just see them missing the postseason by a game or 2.
Yeah, I'm aligned with you, Breech. I don't necessarily see the playoffs for the Los Angeles Chargers in 2025, frankly, because the division's a lot tougher. Of course, the Kansas City Chiefs, they've owned it for the last few years, but the Denver Broncos are going to be nasty on the defensive side of the ball. And if Bo Nix can develop in year 2, I put them ahead of the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, I put the Chargers ahead of the Raiders, but you're talking about Pete Carroll, better at head coach, you're better at quarterback in Geno Smith coming in, more weapons on the offensive side of the ball. So the Raiders are not going to be a tough out like they were a season ago for the Chargers. And you talked, Breech, about, possibly the Chargers not having a collapse. I don't see that either in terms of the entire season. But if you look at the second half of their schedule, specifically after the bye, there is a rough patch at the end of the year where we could see this team kind of stumble their way out of the playoffs. You look after that Week 12 bye, it's at the Raiders, like I said, or against the Raiders. Again, that is a team that I think is going to be a little bit more competitive than they were a year ago. Then it's the Eagles on Monday Night Football. Then it's the Cowboys in Dallas, the Houston Texans who bounced them out of the playoffs a season ago, and then you end the year at the Denver Broncos. To me, there's a chance that you lose those 5 games and you put yourself completely out of the playoff picture.
Okay, so I told you I have some bones to pick with you, and already we're getting into it because, John, both of you just complimented the Broncos. Look, yes, they're in this division. They finished 3rd last season. Both of you have the Chargers out. Congrats, the Chiefs are still there. John, you're saying the Broncos, they look so good. This team was so much fun. I got to do a sideline report for their game. I am a believer in Bo Nix. Say what you will. John, why do you have the Broncos not making the postseason, especially when you still don't have the Chargers making it as well?
Well, Amanda, I know that you are the president of the Bo Nix fan club, so forgive me for what I'm about to say, but I feel the same way about the Broncos as I do about the Chargers. I think that the Broncos are going to be a good team. I think they're going to go 9-8, 10-7. I just think when you look around the rest of the AFC, there's only 3 wild card spots there. So it's a numbers game. I think the Bengals are going to be a good team, probably steal one of those wild card spots. So now you're down to 2, and then the numbers, you just keep looking at them. And as Tyler alluded to earlier, this division is absolutely stacked. Nobody has proven that they've been able to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, so I still see the Chiefs as the class of the AFC West. The Raiders are so much more improved that they could be in wild card contention. I don't necessarily think they're going to make the playoffs, but I do think they're going to be substantially improved and probably finish over 500. And so then you have Bo Nix going into his second season. We kind of saw this with C.J. Stroud with the Texans, where he just had a great rookie year and then took a step back in his second season. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that with Bo Nix. He's going to have a tough time living up to those lofty standards. I don't think he's going to take a huge step back, but I see the Broncos missing the postseason by a game or 2.
All right, I'm just going to disagree with you there. Let's move on to the Steelers. And, John, you actually said the Steelers might be getting slept on. Tyler, however, look, there's a lot of questions about this team. You now have Aaron Rodgers. Mike Tomlin is always still going to be there. I mean, we at least hope he is. 10 wins last season. And as John mentioned, we're looking at a numbers game. So are we not believing in the Steelers, or is it just there's some other teams that are going to be better?
Well, I think there's teams that are going to be better, and I also have no idea how this season is going to unfold for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yes, in theory, they got better at quarterback, bringing in Aaron Rodgers over Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, but it's not like that's a slam dunk that they're going to be better. Aaron Rodgers is coming off a season with the New York Jets where he logged career worst in yards per pass attempt and passer rating, and I look at this team, this roster for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I don't see a lot of former Green Bay Packers. In what we learned during his time with the New York Jets is that Aaron Rodgers likes to throw to guys that he knows. We saw Randall Cobb come over to the New York Jets. We saw Alan Lazard, Devontae Adams. I mean, there was a point last season where Garrett Wilson was phased out of the New York Jets offense in favor of Devontae Adams, and Garrett Wilson's one of the best and brightest young wide receivers in the NFL. So how is Aaron Rodgers going to fare now that he has to mesh with a completely new and unknown set of pass catchers headlined by DK Metcalf, Jonnu Smith, Pat Freiermuth? You go down the list. If Aaron Rodgers isn't able to get in sync, then I think this offense could be a little bit more bumpy than people suggest. And you talk about a schedule that's the 9th toughest in the NFL. You talk about a division where the Baltimore Ravens are arguably the most talented roster in the NFL, and the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm skeptical about that defense, but what if it's a little bit better than we all think? That offense is top 5 in the NFL, so they could be the second best team in the AFC North, and the Pittsburgh Steelers sitting there at 3rd.
Let's go to, how about the Texans? Let's go to that. So far, we've been talking about teams that have been wild card teams last season. So maybe there's something to say for there. Texans won their division. AFC South, we're entering year 3. D'Amico Ryan, C.J. Stroud. John, you do not have them making it to the playoffs. Do we have faith in someone else in this division? I would like to know who. Jacqueline's cheering. Maybe it's the Jags. I don't know about that. Why do you have the Texans not making it to the postseason?
Well, Houston, we have a problem, and it is the offensive line. When I look at the Houston Texans, C.J. Stroud has been the starting quarterback for 2 years, and they have won the division in each of those 2 years. But C.J. Stroud took a step back in 2024, and a big reason for that is because he got sacked 52 times. That was the second most sacks that any quarterback took in the NFL last year. The Texans' offensive line was in total disarray, and they just shipped off their best starting offensive lineman. Laramie Tunsil is now in Washington, so they are starting over from scratch almost at the offensive line, and I'm not sure that's what you want to be doing when your quarterback is coming off a season where he got beat up pretty badly. So I think that the offense could take a small step back this year. Now, the defense is absolutely loaded, so I do think the Texans will be all right. This is not a team that's going to drop down to 7 or 6 wins. I still think they are going to finish above 500. But Jacqueline will love this. I think that the AFC South has a couple other contenders. Liam Cohen teaming up with Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence could have a huge year in Jacksonville. That's a team that could be kind of a dark horse candidate to win the AFC South. The Indianapolis Colts didn't have a great QB situation last year. They still managed to go 8-9, so that their QB play just steps up a little bit no matter who that quarterback is. maybe they win 10 games. So those two teams could give the Texans a run for their money.
A little bit more likely for the Colts. The Jags did go 4-13. That would be quite a turnaround for them.
Trevor was hurt.
Yes, he was hurt. Speaking of quarterbacks that were hurt, we're going to hop over to the NFC. Let's go to the Vikings here. Both of you agree the Vikings are not going to make the postseason. They finished second in the NFC North behind the Lions. J.J. McCarthy is back. John, I'll start with you here. Do we just not have faith in J.J. McCarthy? What is your reasoning?
That is the number one reason right there. When you're talking about a quarterback who has never started a regular season NFL game, now he's got to go in there, and there are high expectations. This isn't like a rookie who's taking over a team that won 4 games last year and there are no expectations. The Vikings are expected to get back to the playoffs, so McCarthy has a high standard to live up to. I'm just not sure a first-year starter is going to be able to do that. And you look at Minnesota's schedule, it is absolutely loaded. By the time they get to week 10, they'll have had to face the Bengals, the Steelers, the Eagles, the Chargers, the Lions, the Ravens. So that they could be out of playoff contention before we even get to week 10. Then you look at the back end of that schedule with the Lions and Packers in back-to-back weeks to close the season. So this is just a brutal schedule to me for a first-year starting quarterback. So J.J. McCarthy is that main reason that I don't see them returning to the playoffs this year.
At least he's looking a little bit more bulky than when we saw him on the sideline, and we were wondering if that was actually J.J. McCarthy last season. Let's stay on the NFC North here. Packers, they finished third behind the Lions, and then the Vikings, still an impressive 11-6 record last season. Tyler, you're not high on the Packers, though. Why is that?
Yeah, see, I'm a big believer of the Chicago Bears this year. So if I can't believe in all 4 of these teams, right? I have to assume that someone ascends and someone steps back. And for me, I think it's the Green Bay Packers in all likelihood to take the step back. And specifically why I look at Jordan Love. Since he became the starter of the Green Bay Packers, the book on him has been a little bit of a slow start. And then all of a sudden he lights it up down the stretch to end the regular season. Last year, an NFL high, 11 interceptions through week 11, then through weeks 12 through 18, 0 interceptions. The guy was absolutely insane down the stretch. This season, I am concerned that that might continue, because if he struggles to begin the year and they maybe lose some games that they shouldn't have because of a lack of efficiency, the back end of the Green Bay Packers schedule is an absolute gauntlet. I don't care if Jordan Love is playing at an uber MVP level, it's going to be difficult. You look at that schedule in their final 7 games versus the Minnesota Vikings, at Lions, versus Bears, at Broncos, at Bears, versus the Ravens, and versus the Vikings. Outside of Chicago, all of those teams were playoff teams a year ago. And like I said, I'm a believer in the Chicago Bears. I think they're the team that's going to step up. So if Jordan Love struggles at the beginning of the year, it might not matter how hot he is towards the end.
All right, Tyler, you're still in the hot seat here. I was mad about the Broncos. I am even more mad about this team. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you have them missing the postseason. They won the NFC South. They overcame a plethora of injuries. Baker's my dude. They drafted Emeka Egbuka. Why do you have the Bucs missing the postseason?
I love Baker Mayfield as well. I mean, 4,500 yards and 41 touchdowns last year. It is tough for me to say, you know what, this team not going to make the playoffs. But my big concern right now is their star left tackle is injured in Tristan Wirfs. Chris Godwin's still dealing with injuries. Yes, they did bring in Egbuka in the first round, but overall, there are some injuries along this offense that give me a little bit of pause. And more than that, this team went 10-7 a season ago, and I don't know if 10-7 is going to get them into the playoffs this season, because I don't know if they're going to get in with 10-7 as a wild card team. That wouldn't have got them in as a wild card team a season ago. So really the path forward for them into the playoffs is to once again win the NFC South. And I am a believer in Michael Penix. The numbers didn't really suggest that he is an ascending young quarterback, but he passed the eye test for me. And if all of a sudden that eye test translates into a more efficient Falcons offense, they just double down on pass rushes this offseason, I think that they could be a ones to take the leap in the division.
All right, final team here. John, it goes to you. And you're going with the Rams to miss out on the playoffs. They finished with a 10-7 record in the NFC West. Same as Seahawks, they did have the tiebreaker. No more Cooper Kupp. Brought in Devontae Adams, Hearing good things about how it's going to training camp. Why are you out on the Rams?
I'll say real quick, I picked the Rams to win the division last season. This year, I am out on the Rams, and it's all because of Matthew Stafford's back. He hasn't practiced because he's had a sore back. If you guys have ever had a sore back, if you get out of bed the wrong way, you can't even function. So the Rams season is going to be determined by whether or not Matthew Stafford is getting out of bed the right way or the wrong way. I'm not sure he's going to be able to make it through the entire season. And if Matthew Stafford is banged up, this team is not making the playoffs in a tough division with the Seahawks, the 49ers, and an up-and-coming Cardinals team. So right now, I just don't trust Matthew Stafford's health, and that is why I have them on the outside looking in for the 2025 playoffs.
Look, 37 years old. We all know what it's like to get old. Sorry about you, Matt Stafford. They do say right now he is week to week. John and Tyler, we appreciate it. Hang on. Got more to talk to you about. Taking a look at the odds in the Super Bowl. Excuse me. Voice got caught there. Ravens, Bills, Eagles, Chiefs, Lions, and then look at that, the Rams, although the John saying that he is not a believer in the Rams this year.